morning, everyone. We're here today in the state of Ohio versus Lubna. This is case number 24852674. Representing Lubna is Mr. Palureng, and representing the state of Ohio is Mr. Dan Jackson. So we're here today for sentencing hearing Ms. Lubna on 22nd February.
Pled guilty to count 1, which is titled aggravated murder, and unclassified felony, which is potential sentence of life with parole eligibility after 20 years, life with parole eligibility after 25 years, life with parole eligibility after 30 years, or life without parole. You also pled guilty to count 5, endangering children, which is a felony of the second degree, which is punishable by 2 to 8 years and or a $15,000 fine. Ms. Lubna, are you ready to proceed this sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
With that being said, this is the procedure we're going to follow. I'm going to turn to the state first. Mr. Jackson, you'll put on your sentencing, hearing, and allow to present the evidence and the victim impact statement. And then when I hear from the state and all the state representatives, I'll turn to the defense lawyer. I'll hear from you, Mr. Palureng, and anyone who wishes to speak on behalf of Ms. Lubna. And then I'll hear from you, Ms. Lubna, and then I'll impose my sentence. Okay, that's how we're going to operate.
That being said, Mr. Jackson, are you ready to proceed?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. We're here on a very tragic case. The state of Ohio has prepared a PowerPoint presentation because the state wants you, when you impose your sentence, that you look at Mrs. Lubna's action. Because as adults, we are responsible for our actions, and there are consequences to our actions. So, let us begin on the fateful day that Rachel Lubna lost her life. If in fact we would have gone to trial, the evidence was going to show that Lubna left the state of Ohio on the 4th of June, 2023. She leaves because there's a receipt that's found in her car that she is in Taylor, Michigan, unbeknownst to Miss Lubna. Her neighbors had Ring doorbell, and the Cleveland Police Department Homicide Unit has gone through 648 hours in videos of the Ring doorbells, which you're going to see in the presentation. So here are the evidence showing that she leaves Cuyahoga County, leaving her child behind. And here's the evidence of the Spirit plane ticket going to Puerto Rico. And there she is at the beach party. And here's the interesting part, Your Honor. Because in the defense memorandum, it says her abrupt stopping of medication played a significant role in her ability to function as a parent and make sound decisions. So when we look at these items from the phone, her actions indicate us that she's in Puerto Rico having a good time with her friends, and that there's not a care in the world about the 16-month-old that was left alone back at play. This picture shows somebody who is showing some discretion and judgment because of she's leaving good time. Meanwhile, this child is in pack and play. So, Your Honor, with regards to Rachel Lubna, she died a very awful death for being a 16-month-old. Dr. Maranay, from Medical Examiner Office, is here, would like to make a statement. He was the medical examiner that did the autopsy in the state of Ohio, who provide you the autopsy and the autopsy photograph to make the part of the sentencing letter.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, doctor, for the record, can you say your name and spell it, please?
Yes, my name is Dr. Maranay. M-A-R-A-N-A-Y. I am currently employed by Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner Office as a forensic pathologist and deputy medical examiner. In this capacity, I was assigned performing an autopsy on little girl Rachel Lubna in order to determine her cause and manner of death. We received Rachel at the medical examiner office from the scene of her residence, at which time she was clothed in non-swell clothing, indicating her body had been dressed prior to first responder arrival. As they had mentioned before, so at the autopsy I examined the body of very emaciated female toddler. At this point, she weighed 30 pounds. Upon review of medical record, this indicates approximately at 7-pound weight loss. Since her previous doctor visit less than 2 months prior to that, the eyes were sunken and she was temporal wasting in her face. In addition to the skin showed markedly decreased turn, meaning with eye pitch the skin, it remains in the tan position, indicating severe dehydration. In addition, there was abundant facial material present on the fingernails, the head, the feet, as well the sole of the feet. The same material was found on her lips, which were very dry and flaking as well. As in her oral cavity came to her teeth, she did have some diaper rash, appearance as well as fecal material adherence to areas. The body is very of significant injury with the exception of dry excoriation of scratch to the face region predominantly, and whether these were inflicted to herself in conscious or semi-conscious state while she was dying, I am unable to determine. Thus, such a determined the cause of death to be just the starvation or severe dehydration due to pediatric neglect. Pediatric neglect is the failure of caregiver to meet adequately a child's basic needs, including physical safety protection, food, clothing, shelter, education, medical or dental care, and supervision. This act involves a failure to act appropriately to support another who depended on them, failing into homicidal manner.
In addition, Your Honor, just for the record, it is very clear the state of Ohio has tried repeatedly to contact Rachel's extended family, and absolutely no one has called the prosecutor's office and has done nothing to acknowledge that Rachel was even a part of the family. Because of that, Rachel, in addition to Dr. Maranay to speak for the death through autopsy findings, Surgeon Rafa Saktika is going to speak to you.
Okay, same thing, surgeon. Please say your name and spell it for the record.
Surgeon Rafa Saktika, spelled Rafasaktika. Morning, Your Honor. Thank you for allowing me to be the voice for Rachel Lubna, a beautiful angel whose life was cut short for no good reason. I'm Sergeant Saktika from the Homicidal Unit. When we first notified of this horrific case, we were all heartbroken. When we started digging deeper into this investigation, it was beyond horrific. It was revealed that the defendant, Sancha Lubna, left her own child alone for hours, which led to days, which led to weeks. The 16-month-old baby was left alone in a pack-and-play to fend for herself for 11 days with no food, maybe milk, the clothing she had on, and the diapers she was wearing. This baby loved her mother, needed her mother, and her mother betrayed her. She chose to satisfy her own needs and desire over that of her own children. To the naked eye, it appeared she had dirt in her mouth and her nails. It wasn't until the next day that the detectives learned that the dirt in her face was feces. There's no way things could have happened the way that the defendants said they did, which left us many unanswered questions. Detectives gained knowledge of the fact that Lubna left Rachel by herself for more than 10 years. 10 days. Many hours of video surveillance revealed all of the comings and goings of Lubna from the June 5th through June 16th of 2023. When she discovered her daughter deceased on June 9th, the audio surveillance captured the final time Rachel was ever heard crying. Rachel, you will never be forgotten.
Does the defense lawyer have anything to add or to say about the witness statement?
I would like to add and clarify from the certain statements, Your Honor.
Okay, then you may proceed.
Thank you. Surgeon Saktika, were you in the state of awareness that Miss Lubna was taking medications even until today because of her severe mental health problems?
No, I did.
And did you know that she was in an abusive relationship?
No, I didn't.
Did you know that her former boyfriend, which was Rachel's father, had left her and her baby alone when they were both in a fragile state?
I was not aware of that.
I see. Your Honor, I would like to elaborate things that needs to be clarified, where Sergeant Saktika views this case only from the victim's perspective only. He didn't care about what was going on with Lubna's well-being. He stayed being unaware and ignored the facts that Rachel's mother was diagnosed with severe mental health problems and was on repeated medications even until today, which impacted the way she processed her thoughts and acted the way she was. Clearly, this investigation was done not fully from both perspectives. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We're going to turn now to the defense lawyer for his part to defend his defendant, Mr. Palureng. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it pleases the court that here today my client agrees with me that there is no justification for our actions. And what the prosecution said, actions matters. And these actions are narcissistic, selfish, appearing. Worst parenting ever imaginable. She pled to aggravated murder. She pled to child endangering. So everything we're about to tell you is mitigation, just to kind of give you an understanding of who this person is. As I stated before, Miss Lubna was indeed not in a state where she was able to think straight. Her severe mental health problems caused by a lot of misfortune that has befallen her. That, mind you, she doesn't have anyone to rely on. Her former boyfriend left her, and her family didn't care one bit for her mental health. But I will point out, when she did finally get home and we heard that 911 call, she didn't want this to happen. You could hear that screaming, "Help me, my daughter's dying." Yes, because of her action, because of her choices. But she took responsibility for that. That call, that one tiny breach from whatever was going on in her head. That reality that her daughter was dying. She was calling for help. She didn't want this to happen. And again, Your Honor, she took responsibility. She pled to aggravated murder. She pled to child endangering. Nothing is going to bring back Rachel, and she knows that. So in conclusion, when you're contemplating your decision, please don't disregard her mental state. She was obviously struggling with something that she didn't know. Now, I will let the defendant talk.
Miss Sanchalutna, do you want to stand up?
Good morning, Your Honor. There's so much pain that I have in regards to the loss of my baby. I externally heard about everything that happened, and I'm not trying to justify my actions, but nobody knew how much I was suffering and what I was going through. Every day I ask forgiveness from God and from my daughter. So I'm a person who believes in God. God and my daughter have forgiven me. I also ask for my first daughter forgiveness. Kila and I'd like to ask for my parents forgiveness. One can imagine how much I close to my daughter and how much we all love one and another. I miss my daughter very much. I know that nothing can bring Rachel back, and not a day goes by when I don't think of her. I pray to God that one day I will see her again. Thank you, Your Honor.
Alright.
This court has to impose a sentence here today, and the first thing comply with these purposes and principles under our revised code 292911A. The overriding purposes is to punish the offender and protect the public from future crimes by this offender and others using the minimum sanctions that the court determines accomplishes this purpose without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local government resources. I always have to consider the need for incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation, and restitutions. The sentences should be commensurate with and not demeaning to the seriousness of the offender's conduct, its impact to the victim. You could have called someone in Cleveland and says that Rachel needs help. Based on all of these factors and based on all the things I've looked at, aggravated murder, I'm going to sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I'm going to sentence you to 8 years concurrent to count 1. Court adjourned.
Hidup kita ada bensin loh.
Ya udah,
Apa?
gampang.
Hidup kita ada bensin.
Boleh 25 menit nggak kalau kayak gitu?
Bensin.
Salah. Behind the scene.
Main mesin. Bentar lah. Ini atas aja kan. Atas sama atas aja yang cuma selalu.
This time I want you, like it's magnetic.
Apa sih gua ngapain?
Employed by Cuyahoga County Medical.